When life changes, money changes. And when money changes, life changes. That's the way it is. You've seen this in real life. Now we're going to talk about how to manage change while you're also managing money for clients who are going through major life change events. Hi, I'm Susan Bradley. I'm the founder of the Sudden Money Institute and the Financial Transitionist Institute. And this is an introduction to working with clients in transition. The way I'd like to set this up is that first, I'd like to give you the basics of the human side, the human experience of life transition, some of the universal aspects that I think will help you tremendously as a financial planner. Inevitably, you will be working with clients in change. So hopefully these basics will serve you now and for many years to come. Then I'd like to share with you one of our primary core tools that we've been using for almost 2 decades now, and give you 2 cases, a positive and a negative, to show you some of the best practices around using the decision-free zone tool. And I'd like to end with an exercise that you can do to help your clients not only manage stress during transition, but thrive with stress during transition. So let's get going with this. So first, I think it's important to understand that the future is human. The future of our profession, maybe the future of the world, maybe it's the next new age. But from the point of view of our profession, we've digested the changing technology, all of the exponential change there. We get it. It's going to continue to happen. We live in a time of acceleration. I think the next big stage is the human stage, the age of the human being. And that plays an important role in the work of financial transitionists, because it's the human side that's the driver in these major life events. So we want to train ourselves to be prepared for this next stage, the stage of the age of the human being. So as we look at skills for this new age, we realize that we need to have science-based tools. We need to anchor in good, strong science and stay up to date with that science. It's changing radically, as you know. Neurology and psychology are playing a much bigger role in how we interact with each other and with our clients. The processes that we develop need to be repeatable. This is about developing habits, strong habits. And a habit is a practice that you do over and over again. And it's creating habits of connecting human being to human being. You with your technology, with all your training, all that's important, and the client with their life experience and their human experience going through transition. And your job is to integrate both of them. The processes that we use need to be repeated over and over again. It becomes embedded in your practice until you become like an informed intuitive around these things. Not an intuitive, but informed intuitive. In other words, you have process and you have tools. And the tools are universal tools. By that, I mean the kind of tools, and the one that we're going to share with you in this, the decision-free zone, these are things that you can use with every client. They don't have to be in transition to use this. Every client, regardless of net worth, gender, sophistication, preparation, education, and even readiness. Many times people in transition are kind of stunned by what happened, and it takes a while for them to come back to themselves. So they don't have a high state of readiness, but you can help them with that. The other thing that I think is important for working on the human side, particularly in transitions, is that we develop an attitude. And the attitude is one of continuous learning. That's why I say down there, mastery versus becoming a master. This seems to be an infinite area of study, and the skill set is always developing, and we, as practitioners in this area, are always developing. So that's an important attitude to take to this kind of work. So let's talk about these life events that create these transitions and change. All of them have a tendency to pivot life in a new direction. Some of them happen right away, very suddenly, no warning. They could be good or they could be tragic. Some of them are planned for long periods of time, like retirement or the sale of a business. But what you see here, inheritance, sale of a business, major career changes, divorce and death, that is really the stuff of financial planning. People hire you to prepare for these, to manage them when they happen, and to adapt to them after they have happened. So these events, and not just these that are here, there are 6 events here. We study 12, and we're discovering new events, or we're naming new events as we go. But all of these events are very diverse. All of them are diverse with people and with some of the technical things around it. But there are some things that we can say about all of them, and it's important. Transitions begin with an end. Some part of life, some predictable pattern in life, some identity is gone, and it's not coming back. They typically take longer than expected or wanted. They last years, not months, sometimes many, many years. Everyone feels that they should be over it by now. There's a certain degree of impatience and shame that goes around this. If you know that, you can really help normalize and make clients more comfortable and more productive. You're not really expediting, you're not making it happen faster, but you're making it a much more productive, transformative kind of experience. There's always an opportunity in all of these events, even if it tends to be a tragic event. There's always an opportunity for your client to pull it together, to reboot themselves, to re-examine, and to create the next great chapter of their lives. It's a beautiful thing to be witness to and to help somebody to actually do that. So understand that there are clear stages of transition, and there's a place, an important place for financial planning in all 4 stages. Transitions mean, it means that it's a movement. You're going from, we say here, what was to what will be. But that in-between part is the transition. Transitions means a transit from point A to point B. In this case, it's one way of life to the other. That space in between is really a very fertile, percolating, confusing kind of time in life, layers of complexity, and it's really, it's a privilege to be with people during this journey from what was to what will be. So it starts with anticipation. An anticipation stage means that an event has been identified. Maybe not the time and the amount, and maybe it's not even guaranteed that it would happen, but the client is engaged in thinking about it, and as they're thinking about it, that thought, that anticipation is starting to influence their decisions, their commitments, hard and soft commitments. It's a critical time for people to manage their expectations and to prepare for the next stage, ending. Ending means that the event has happened. There's no going back. It's usually a time when there's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of technical, there's account transfers, there's cash flows that change, there's portfolios that change, risk management changes. And all the while that stuff is happening, the client is going through an emotional experience, whether it's a tumble or just a light experience, depends upon the client. But what we want to do is get people to their highest level of capability during that ending stage to make the best decisions, or to not make decisions, whichever is in their best interest. So after all the big pieces are put together in life in the ending stage, which lasts maybe a year or 2, depending upon complexities and the capacity of the client, they move into a stage we call passage. Now this usually seems like this is when it's taking too long. They feel like they should be back to some normal. They feel like their feet aren't quite on the ground yet the way they used to be. That's why it's a much bigger circle there. It's dark and it has a lot of movement to it. If you show this to clients, they'll tell you about those different arrows. It has an emotional connection for them. So passage certainly lasts years. The grief recovery people say that it takes about 5 years for a widow to feel normal again. It doesn't mean that 5-year period is awful, but it means that there's ups and downs, and there's a lot of confusion that's usually under the radar. If people don't have a process or a way to talk about this, they generally don't. If you can enter this experience with them and give them some leadership and some direction, it can make a world of difference, and they really can move into a transformation experience by the time they get to the 4th stage, which is new normal. The new normal stage is what it sounds like. It's when the patterns are once again predictable. People are looking forward, not backwards or sideways. They have a tendency to have settled in. But it's a great time to remind people what they went through. Take a client through a memory of what it was like in the previous years, what tools worked for them, what process worked for them, what did they wish they had known, what would they tell someone else. This is a great way to remind them that they have a new set of life skills and they have a new guide, you. So when life changes again, and it will if they're still breathing, when life changes again, we all have a better idea on how to manage the challenges and really take advantage of the opportunities. There are really 3 outcomes to life transitions. Regret usually means loss of some financial loss, some personal loss, some loss of identity, relationships. Survive is the norm. It's the money's intact, the relationships are okay. There's a sense of relief when it finally kind of plays itself out, but there's no great step up. The real high form of working with clients in transition is when you help them reach transformation, when you help them really use that disruptive crack, that event in their life, to eventually create the next great chapter of their life. Again, it's a wonderful thing to be witness and to be part of that. So understand that there are 2 aspects to money, and this has always been true. There's a technical side, which you're trained in your CFP work and all the other studies that you have done. But there's also the personal side, that human being that we're talking about. Relationships, emotions, hopes, dreams, self-esteem, sense of well-being, all of that wraps up into the personal side. And that is the side that is where decisions are made from. So we believe, and this whole body of work that's been created is based on this belief, that these 2 sides are equally important and equally complex. And neuroscience has certainly proven what we saw all along, was that the personal side drives decisions. Now, if that's true, and we want to build a body of work, a model for that personal side, to integrate with the technical side, it's not an either or kind of thing, then you have to start with understanding that you don't really know everything about that personal side. The client is really the expert on themselves, but you need to have some knowledge, some process, and some tools. And it begins with the wondering of what is that human experience of transition? What does it look like, feel like, and sound like? To answer this, we, over the years, have developed a chart here, and this will be part of the materials we'll provide in this session. This is a chart that identifies 9 traits and names the flow side of it, the positive side of the trait, and the struggle side of the trait. You see identity intact and identity compromise or loss of identity on the first level there. We don't have time to go into the details with this, but you could keep this as somewhat of a cheat sheet. Just without having studied all of these as we do, you can at least have a name there of a trait and then see how it matches up with your observation of your client's behavior. It gives you a starting place for conversation with your clients, for exploration, and for you to step in either to enhance the flow trait or to start to manage and minimize the impact of the struggle trait. So what we're looking at is having knowledge, tools, and process. However you acquire this, however this comes to you, knowledge, tools, and process combined allows you to be present with your clients. If you're present, you're listening. If you're present, you're paying attention to not just the words that they say, but how they present. You're present to their consistencies or inconsistencies. You don't see them as difficult clients. You see them as human beings trying to manage one of the great pivot points of their life. And if you practice some of the processes to manage stress and to manage decision-making and expectations and communication and all of that, and you make that practice a habit, you evolve, really, you elevate your skill set to the level of being an informed intuitive with this. It means that you take all the information you have from your technical side and the information the client is giving you from the personal side, and you're able to pull that together and understand them and understand how to move them forward. So we're moving now from the basics. Hopefully that was helpful. And we're going to go into the tool. The tool that we're presenting here is called the Decision-Free Zone, and it is a core tool for the Certified Financial Transitionist Toolset. So the Decision-Free Zone, or the DFZ, is a proactive time out from making non-essential decisions and commitments. It was designed to create a calm mind state, to help clients just lower the volume of all the noise, help them make one or two good decisions at a time. So what we do is we sort and we prioritize just by timeline and urgency. And we have 3 categories that are really simple. Clients don't have to struggle to remember and understand. Now category is for important and urgent. Soon category is for important but not urgent. And later means that we need more time. So let me give you some more information on this. These are 7 tips for using the decision-free zone with your clients. First of all, avoid calling it a no decision zone. There are times when you don't make decisions, but frequently there are things that need to be done. And it's not just decisions. It might just be getting the death certificates when somebody passes away. Things that need to be done in order to protect the well-being of the client. If something wasn't done, there would be some harm. Those are the kind of things that we're looking for in the very beginning, but then we organize everything else. So 1, avoid calling it a no decision zone. 2, the intention is to free the client up to make a few good decisions now, rather than feel overwhelmed by too many decisions. Usually if there's too much to do, nothing gets done or things don't get done very well. Number 3 in the coaching tips is to discuss the benefits. Why am I doing this with you? Why should we follow this decision-free zone protocol? It's because the noise in your head will calm down. Things will become clearer as order increases, because it might be easier to think, to see options, and to understand consequences, because it helps you find and articulate the boundaries and to manage the expectations of other people. It's very common that other people have something to say, some suggestion or some demand or some requirement, and to help clients calm that down is very, very helpful. And it will also help you, speaking to the client, help you make sure that the essentials are taken care of. And you don't have to do everything, but you do have to do some things, and we'll get the essentials done. Number 4, is to use a 1-page wherever possible. This idea of having a visual is important. It's easier to visually understand concepts and lists and relationships and allocations or whatever it is. It's easier to understand it visually than to read about it. And you're talking about people who have a new wave of demands on themselves, and their brain might not be at the highest functioning. So give them a break and make it easier for them to understand what needs to be done right now. So visuals are important. We'll show you some samples. The number 5 is to move the second tier items that are important but not urgent up to the now as they progress. It's an organic document that you have. And it's the kind of thing that you want to keep visible in the meetings. That's point number 7. But I skipped number 6, and that means that you'll remember it a little bit more. So when you have a client and that has a strong desire to do something that they're not ready for, add it to the later list. Add it so that they know that you hear them, that they know that it's present, and that they know that they will eventually get there. And when they get antsy and they start to push toward that, you can say, it's just not time yet. It's not that it's not going to happen. It's just not time yet. We're moving in that direction. And again, number 7 is have a visual, have the decision-free zone sheets in front of them or on your screen, if that's how you do it, so they can see the progress that they have made. So those are 7 tips for you to use the decision-free zone protocol with your clients. Now, let's hear what Dr. Moira Summers, who is our faculty member, and she has a PhD in adherent behavior. She says she has a PhD in procrastination. But when she looks at the DFC, she says that it addresses one of the major external contributors to non-adherence, namely new and hugely competing demands on the client's time, energy, and personal resources. Trying to do everything at once usually results in many things being done in completely unsatisfactory or not at all. The decision-free zone helps stop the depletion of the client's physical, mental, and emotional resources. This is a simple tool that accomplishes something that's really quite profound. And you know that you've gotten it right with them if you can see relief in the client. You see that the client looks and feels more calm and that they sound more ready. Relief, calm, and ready are your indicators that you hit the goal for using the DFC with your client. So you can use this as well as part of your materials with this. This is an explanation of each of the 3 categories. Action steps that are essential and need immediate attention. That's on the now list. You could list who's supposed to do things and when they're going to be completed. But these are things like filing taxes on time to avoid penalties. It could be things like filing for benefits before that the benefits expire. Things that are timely and urgent. Soon things are actions and items that are important, but they're not urgent. They don't have the same urgency, but they are important. It could be many of the financial planning categories. It could be portfolio management, and you'll get to that, but you need to take care of those few urgent things first. And later, well, that's the important items, decisions that just need to be postponed. You need more time, you need more information. You need to get other things out of the way first. So when you're describing this to your clients, you can use these definitions. So the way you do it, the steps, is this is really a listening exercise. It's your curiosity, it's your wondering, asking them, what's going on? How are they feeling? What's happening? And keep asking some more. I'll show you what it looks like in the end, but this should not be a quick exercise. Particularly at the beginning. There may be times when it becomes very efficient to go through this, but this is one of those discovery exercises because you're co-creating a protocol with them that they're going to follow to their benefit if they really understand it. So once you've heard the whole story, then you do a 1-word visual scatter. So that you take everything that's in their head that they've been talking about and you use 1 word or 1 phrase, small numbers of words, to put that topic on a piece of paper. So it goes from big like the sky and overwhelming to on a piece of paper. That's the beginning of normalizing and stabilizing. And then once you've done that, you want to visually organize by topic, and then you want to prioritize. So those are the steps. Now, let me show you how it might work out. So this is a story of MJ. She received a several $million in an eminent domain settlement that went on for years. She's bone tired. She's just worn out with the whole thing, and she lost the business that she had built by herself, and she loved it. So she comes to a financial planner who's trained in this, and she says, okay, so the lawyer says I need to bring my check to you and that you're going to invest it. So how will you invest my money? Well, you don't have to be a CEFT to know that you can't answer that. No one in this profession could answer that right off. You need to know who she is. You need to know a lot about her. So you start to ask questions, and you find out that she is bone tired. She doesn't know if she's going to keep her house, sell her house, move to another area. She's thinking about buying a landscaping business, but maybe go back to school and maybe start a new career. Maybe she'd just be a waitress and not have to, what she says, think anymore. I think that's not very nice to most waitresses, but you know what I mean. She needs some income. She needs to invest the money. She wants to go away. She wants to find a job. So it's a scatter. So as you listen to that, this is that one word or one phrase, scatter. Now, you wouldn't put her picture there. That's kind of creepy to take somebody's picture and put it there. But you might put her initials in a circle in the middle of this. Because remember, this is a visual exercise. And then you want to organize. So this is organizing by topic. So you see everything in the upper left is about business and career. Everything in the upper right is about home, where she's going to live. Lower left or lower right is investment and it's money related. Now, as you're talking with her, as you're going through this exploration and you put the words down in the one word scatter, you find out a little bit more. She mentions a divorce and you say, divorce, tell me about the divorce. Oh, well, we're not done yet. How long have you been working on your divorce? 5 years. What's the holdup? The holdup is that he didn't want to get divorced because he thought he could cash in. You're thinking, you mean to cash in on the settlement? Did he know that 5 years ago? No, but my parents had money and he thought that when they died, that if we were still married, he would be entitled. So tell me about your parents. How are they doing? Well, they died. And you say, well, okay, so tell me about that. And then you hear that the parents left her a house that is under contract and some commercial property that she doesn't know if she should keep or she could sell. Now, why didn't this come up right away? Well, people don't come to you and give you the proper list of everything. They're coming to you with their lives in motion, money in motion, in her case, exhausted. So she just wants to get this over with. She wants to kind of magically move on with her life. So your job is to understand more and more about her and what's important to her. And if you listen carefully and you ask questions, you'll find out more. So this is the idea of doing the visual organization by topic with her. Now, the next thing is to prioritize. So she has a now, soon, and later list. Her now list is really to slow her down. Explore the landscaping business options, but don't purchase anything. Get the health insurance policy. Delay the home buying and selling decisions. Go ahead with the parents thing because of circumstances. What to do with the settlement money in a separate account, certainly not in a joint account. Consolidate retirement accounts and continue the divorce proceeding. So all of these things she could do with the help and guidance of the CEFT that she's meeting with. She can transfer assets in, she can start to consolidate, things like that. But she doesn't have to do full financial planning and a full portfolio realignment or new investment plan because she has fresh money, she has liquidity of it. So you're slowing it down and making sure she stays safe, she's productive, she can move down the road, but not too quickly. Let me give you another idea of how to use this. This is a very different story. This is a story of a wife and a mother who one Sunday afternoon committed suicide. We don't need to know all the details around it, but we do know that it's tragic. She leaves a husband and 2 small children. She was a doctor. She was an internist in practice with her husband. She was in her early 40s. Her husband's first call was to a family friend who was also their financial planner, Erin. Erin had never worked with someone in this situation, and she was herself in grief. She was overwhelmed with what she heard here and what's happening. So, and that may happen to you. And you have to have a way to have a process that's helpful, and following a procedure. As I said, process equals presence. So when Erin is having this deep concern and her own grief, she is still of use. She's very productive with the husband. So the husband, his name is James, and what happened with this was that the wife had done all of the family finances. So in doing that, he didn't know even the PIN number or the PIN code for their ATM. He was used to just having cash in his pocket that she would give him at the beginning of the week. So they needed to start from scratch. And there were many people, a support team of office managers, his brother, the CEFT, and the bookkeeper. So it was a list of things to be done and who was going to do it and the date of completion. So this is a really hard one. What I know about this case is that they have kept this decision-free zone look going for many years. And the husband has worked his way through, obviously, most of it. But it's a way for he and Erin to sit and think about what next. So when there's another big event, maybe it's something to do with his practice or with his children or buying a new home or something like that, they come back to this decision-free zone format, and it helps him calm, focus, and make some good decisions one at a time. So I hope you get some use out of this for your clients, but also try it yourself. If you try this yourself, do the scatter and then organize the scatter and then prioritize, I think you'll see that it really does help and it will make you more confident working with the clients. Okay, so now we're going to shift again. And we're going to shift into stress and transitions. Stress is part of the package. Stress is part of life. It's not going to go away. But the question around stress is interesting. Does stress, the presence of stress, increase capacity or decrease capacity? And by capacity, I mean both physical and cognitive. And the answer, unequivocally now, based on all the neuroscience that's gone into this in the last 5 years, is it depends on your mindset. You choose for yourself, but you also help your clients choose for themselves. This is absolutely within the range of excellent financial transitions planning. This doesn't take you out of your primary focus of working with clients for 1 second. It elevates you. So let's talk a little bit more about what stress is. Stress, the stress response, by the way, that term was first coined by Dr. Hans Selye back in 1939, so it's not news. Stress is a biological and physiological response experienced on encountering a threat that we feel we do not have the resources to deal with. This could be a positive event. It could be a negative event. How we respond, the intensity of our response, is it positive or negative, is up to the individual. But the stress response, just neutral, biological response, biological and physiological or psychological response to an experience on encountering a threat that we feel we do not have the resources to deal with. So Dr. Kelly McGonigal has done a lot of work on this. I believe she's with Stanford, and she wrote The Upside of Stress. She says stress happens when something you care about is at stake. She also says that stress is a biological state designed to help you learn from experience. That means your stress response is extremely receptive to the effects of deliberate practice. So she's saying that stress actually can be evolutionary, and it is. If you go back in time and you look at stress and what stress causes people to do, to move, to invent, to figure things out. But what's important here from the financial planning point of view is the idea of deliberate practice, that we can actually insert a deliberate practice in our important and and meaningful conversations with clients about major life events and all of the layers of complexity that go with it. It's called a mindset reset. And the reasons that we do a mindset reset exercise is, first, we want to harness the creative power of stress while minimizing its negative effects. Remember, we said it doesn't necessarily decrease or increase capacity, physical and cognitive capacity. So we want to get to the best part of stress and minimize the negative. And also the mindset reset exercise establishes the habit of co-creating the belief that stress enhances the ability to find and test new possibilities. So if you get in the habit of seeing stress as enhancing the ability to find and test new possibilities, you see stress as not necessarily embracing where it came from or even how it feels. But if you get in the mindset of seeing it as a sign that something big and good could happen, eventually you'll figure it out, that somehow this will work out, then the client and you are more responsive rather than reactive. And responsive means that you have the ability to step back, analyze, figure out what to do, and move forward. And when you don't know what to do, you get comfortable with not knowing what to do. You don't know what to do now, but you'll figure it out. Is a good example of a growth mindset. So there are 3 steps to a mindset reset. There are many of them. I recommend Dr. McGonigal's book and some of the other books referenced at the end of this, this presentation. But step 1 for this one is to see it and name it. So you're asking the client, what are you experiencing and what would you call it? You want them to name it, as opposed to just saying, I'm so anxious. You want to say, what is it? It's anxiety. As soon as they say it's anxiety, it starts to otherize, is what they call it. And the other term that's used around this is affect labeling. There's some references on that too. But what the science is telling us is by naming it and otherizing it, making it not that the client is anxious, but they're feeling anxiety as a separate kind of thing, that it changes brain activity. It starts to shift from the amygdala, the survival brain, to the prefrontal cortex, which is the better planning part of the brain, the part where solutions can be seen in more long-term thinking. You can also ask, what do you think is happening? You don't want to get into all the deep feelings of it. This is more naming it. And then when someone does name it, then the next step is to own it. Is to say, so what is the change or the person or situation, whatever it is, what is it that you care about? So you want to know what they're caring about. Then you want to know, what are the stakes? What are the stakes of this thing that you're caring about, that you're concerned about? And once you have that, so you named it, now what are the stakes? And the next thing is to move towards the stress and explore it and embrace it. And it might go something like, okay, now that we know what it is and we know what the stakes are, let's take a closer look at this. Let's see how we can start to manage this. And moving towards it, you have the skills to do this more so than any other profession. You can start to move pieces around. You can start to get some clarity. You can start to say, we don't need to know exactly what this is right now, but we can figure it out. It's going to take some time, but we can figure it out. The third step is to use it. So you name it, you own it, and now it's to use it. So be open to possibilities and opportunities to learn more that's inherent in stress. Remind people that they've done this before. They've had stress experiences, they've found their resilience, they've really anchored into their core values, and they've had the staying power to continue to figure things out. That's the whole thing, is to stay in the game long enough until you can start to figure it out. So helping clients build a narrative and to own their story of resilience and having managed through stressful experiences in the past, and how they did it is all part of this mindset reset. The other important ingredient is social reflection, community, understanding that they have support. They have people, family, friends, colleagues. They have you that will be their allies, that will be there and will understand that they're just trying to figure it out, that know who you are, even when you tend to forget who you are when you're talking to a client. Sometimes they do. And then continue talking about the topic and develop the habit of scenario planning. Again, no other profession can do this like a financial planning profession can. These things have a tendency to have their own time frame. Sometimes a mindset reset helps you right away. The client gets clear. They say, I get it. I can move on from here. Let's get going. And they're ready to embrace it, move into it, and follow some steps. Others need time. And it may seem like they're lagging, but they're not. We all need time to process. And it will be different for each client, and it may be different for different circumstances for the same client. There may be a situation where they were fast like the wind all the way through it, and then the next situation they really stumble and they need to go very slowly. And that's the kind of attention that I hope that you will have for your clients and care for your clients. It's patience, it's caring, it's holding them in high regard, and it's figuring out one step at a time what helps them move through these many years of transition. So the next slide here is just references of some of the great work that we use to inform ourselves here at the Financial Transitionist Institute. There's many more. I hope you will do some research on this. This really is the future of financial planning. These transition events will only increase in volume and in velocity. So you have quite a beautiful future ahead of you, and I thank you for the great work that you do. Be well, everyone.